Here we go, guys. It's the second installation of the Battle of Ohio, and it's between the Brook Park Browns, aka the Cleveland Browns, versus the Cincinnati Bengals. So, Browns fans, I brought this up last time, but all the times that your fan base has been saying that we are in Kentucky, our airport's in Kentucky, it's kind of ironic that, so I think next year, I forget when it starts, but you're not going to be in the city of Cleveland anymore. So all the years of taunting, oh, you're in Kentucky, all this, and you don't play in the same city as what your football team is. I get it, it's a suburb, but you don't play in the same city. The team is, called the Cleveland Browns. Kind of ironic if you ask me. But anyway, let's dive into the matchup, man. Bengals are looking for the sweep. Browns are looking for revenge to get back to just back to some winning, some form of winning. They're 3-10, we're 6-8. And let's take a look at the Bengals, man. So obviously, offense is nearly unstoppable. I mean, Joe Burrow is leading a passing attack that is just unreal. He's playing his best football of his career. I don't think it's particularly close. The defense has given up a lot of big plays, but the last couple of weeks, if you watch those games against the Titans and the Cowboys, they're still forcing some shootouts because the defense is still getting some stops. And it was a little bit of a shootout in the first half against Tennessee, but the Will Levis made a couple bad passes. One was to, I believe it was Cam Taylor-Britt. Another was Mike Hilton as well. And then, there was also a fumble in the second half that I don't know who caused it, but Jordan Battle picked it up, and of course, he dropped it before he even crossed the goal line. So, there's a lot of things that we can take away from that game in terms of the defense. It was against a bad quarterback, bad just offense in general. But it's still, regardless of the opponent, man, it's always refreshing to see a defense just like the defense do, what they haven't done all year because like at this point, man, we're just playing for pride. I mean, like I said, so many things have to go our way. If you haven't saw the Bengals versus Titans recap that I made, I put in the comments a scenario where the Bengals could make the playoffs. It's very unlikely. They have a 5% chance, I heard. But, they have momentum coming into this one at least. Got to take it just one at a time. Bengals are going to have to win out if they want any chance of making it. And even if they don't make it, I still want them to win the rest of these games just because, at this point, it's just for pride. And you got a tough one. You got Cleveland this week, who's a division rival. You never want to sleep on a division rival. The Broncos are also very good. They're ironically a team that, we're playing for a playoff spot. We're competing for a playoff spot with. So, that's all, obviously it's going to be tough. And then the Steelers, our biggest kryptonite, is in week 18. So, I hope that they can win the rest of these games. But it's going to be tough. Hostile environment in all three, or in Pittsburgh rather. And then, at home, you got two gritty opponents. I wouldn't even call the Browns gritty. Because speaking of the Browns, man, they're 3-11, yes, but regardless of Jameis Winston, he threw three picks in Sunday's game against the Kansas City Chiefs, and he struggled with a bunch of turnovers. Again, as I'm recording this, it's Tuesday, so I haven't really seen who's gonna start and everything, and I'll be kind of busy the next couple days, so I wanted to schedule this for Thursdays just so I can have it out by then. But big news for the Browns, and not a good sign again. Nick Chubb is out for the season. I believe he twisted his ankle against the Kansas City Chiefs, as did Patrick Mahomes against the Cleveland Browns. So their defense, regardless of like how inconsistent they are, I still think that Myles Garrett, he can cause obviously havoc to the Bengals like he's been doing, and their defense is not great, but they're still flashy. I mean, Denzel Ward is not to be slept on. Newsome even, and then Myles Garrett is, and even when they had Davian Clowney, that was like the peak of their defense. Even though they weren't very good in 2021, I still thought that defense was outstanding. And then obviously last year they're ranked as like a historic defense and one of the best in the league, everything. But yeah, I mean, I still think that they can I mean, they're just playing for pride at this point, as are we. I mean, yeah, technically we're not eliminated, but I still treat it as like a pride game, for both teams. And just, one thing that I'll just take away. I mean, like it's just like the last game versus the Browns. If I had to give me one takeaway, I mean, both obviously Chase and Tee Higgins had a touchdown. Um, Not the greatest game statistically for them, but they still put up points for us. And Burrow, Joe Burrow, regardless of how he looked against the Browns, it was just refreshing to see a win. So I think the main thing in that game, my biggest takeaway was Charlie Jones. I mean, he set the tone immediately. Right out of the gate, they got a kickoff touchdown, and then you kind of thought like, okay, the Bengals are in control of this game. So it's like you really want to see a lot more production than we saw in Cleveland. But at the end of the day, it's a division opponent, so you expect it to kind of be a gritty type of game. Um, but you know what? If this doesn't go well, like it won't surprise me, but it would be disappointing. It's like you're going for a sweep at home against the Browns, who are, a team that caused you a lot of trouble over the last, even when you were good. When we were good, like the last, like in 2021, 2022, they still beat us 3 out of 4, regardless. One of them was, when we had it locked up. But still, I mean, the Browns are still, like, they give the Bengals trouble no matter what the records are. I mean, yeah, I guess there's been a few blowouts where the Bengals have blown them out, but that's in past years. Recently, I mean, it's always been kind of tough. So, you know, I expect no different. I expect that defense to try to give Joe Burrow a lot of trouble and that offensive line a lot of trouble. But I expect us to hopefully do the same. I mean, granted, we're not playing against the best quarterback. Again, I don't know who's set to start. I think Bailey Zappe's on he's on that QB roster, so maybe they start him against us. Maybe they roll with Jameis Winston. I heard that they're not committing to him. So it's going to be interesting to see. But, I would personally, I would have loved to see Joe Flacco again. I mean, it would have been like seeing an old friend. We played against him. I believe we have a winning record against him. I believe it's like 12-9 or something like that. So it's been interesting to see him, but he's obviously not on the team anymore. But regardless, guys, some questions I have, man. Can the Bengals' explosive offense, can they, get theirs against a very battered Browns defense, banged up, injuries, and can the Bengals also limit their lapses, against Jerome Ford, with Nick Chubb out for the season, he's going to get a lot more carries. And then obviously, regardless of what the Browns' record is right now, they're still playing for revenge. They'll play to spoil our season, even. So it's like you expect you expect a tough game, regardless. I mean, there's been many instances where one team has gotten the best of the other. They maybe have a better record than each other, and then it's like nope. So then they end up splitting. So they have faint playoff hopes. The Bengals do, but again, if you give me one takeaway from the season that I would hold on to, like okay, at least we did this. It kind of reminds me of the Reds. The Dodgers won the World Series. Obviously, the Reds didn't even make the playoffs. They were in fourth place this year. One thing I did take away from the season that I was proud of is we swept. Hey, we swept both the teams that were in the World Series. I mean, we swept the Yankees in New York. We swept the Dodgers at home. Those are two things that I can be like proud of. Okay, well we did this, and this one is no different. I mean, if we come out with a sweep over the Cleveland Browns, I'll be happy. With like not that I'm not saying the season will be a success, but that's like something you can hold on to. Like, hey, at least we did sweep the Cleveland Browns. So yeah, man, I'll take it. It's the second installment, like I said, of the Battle of Ohio. It is Northeast versus Southwest, an Ohio divided state. And of course, Browns fans, we can agree on this. Let's go, Cavs. Of course. Everyone in Ohio should support this Cavs team. That is my favorite basketball team. I know you guys know that. But, yeah, the only Cleveland team that I really like, I just don't like. Like I really like the the Guardians now. And I love, the Cavs are my favorite team. But I just don't like the Browns, man. They're longtime rivals with us, so I can't like them. That's just not in me. And as I said last time, like I think the Bengals and the Bengals fans and whatever, like we're essentially born to hate the Cleveland Browns because if it wasn't for Paul Brown, founding the Browns and then eventually the Bengals because he hated the Browns so much, he created a franchise in Ohio just to beat them. Like it just feels like we're destined. Like if not for the Browns, there's probably no Bengals. So it's like we're destined to kind of hate them. It's in Paul Brown's DNA, and it should be in all of our fans, man. But again, like I said, I don't like the Browns, but I can always like I don't feel bad for them because like I just don't like them, but I can kind of like empathize just because like the Bengals have also been pretty bad over the years. Like it's just it's like rooting for two losers. You kind of feel bad for each other, but you still don't. I mean, we still don't like them. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but in this one, we don't like each other one bit. Obviously, in this matchup, throw respect, throw love out the window. Just get a win, man. Feel good. You beat the Cleveland Browns twice in a year. Not saying that's like a huge accomplishment because the Browns are not, let's face it, not very good. But it's something to be proud of as a Bengals fan. Like, hey, you swept your in-state rivals. So you guys have a great one. I'm traveling and I'll be back on Sunday late afternoon, so I'll have the post game out that same day. You guys have a great one, and I will see you guys later. Hoo day, and let's sweep the Cleveland Browns.